What if the words coming out of her mouth were actually warning signs your soul was begging you to hear? Not just casual phrases, but clear signals screaming that something is wrong. Most people miss them. They hear but don't listen. They feel something is off but ignore it, hoping it'll get better. And that's the trap. That's how emotional damage begins. Not with violence, not with betrayal, but with words that sound small yet cut deep over time. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, dismissed, or drained, you probably missed a red flag, but your mind didn't, your body didn't, and it's time you start trusting that feeling. You've been trained to overlook discomfort, to brush off doubt, to keep peace even when it costs you your voice. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe that silence meant strength, that enduring disrespect meant love, but it doesn't. It means you've forgotten your worth. It means you've allowed the wrong words to take root in your mind, convincing you that you're the problem, that maybe you're just too sensitive, too emotional, too much. You're not. You've just been absorbing toxicity disguised as love for far too long. Words are powerful. They shape beliefs. They sink into your self-image and slowly rewire your sense of value. When someone constantly belittles, dismisses, or mocks you, those aren't just bad habits. They're signs of who they really are. And if you ignore them, you don't just risk your happiness, you risk your identity. Because the longer you stay in an environment where your needs don't matter, the more you begin to believe you don't matter. That's the real danger. But you have a choice. You can wake up. You can stop normalizing pain. You can stop calling dysfunction love just because you're afraid to start over. You can learn to recognize the signs. You can learn to walk away, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. That's what this is about. It's not about judging her. It's about protecting you. You don't need to wait for the breaking point. You don't need to collapse before you finally choose yourself. All you need is clarity and the courage to act on it. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll gain that clarity. You'll learn the exact phrases that signal danger, subtle but deadly. You'll understand what they truly mean and why they're never just harmless words. You'll see through the manipulation, the ego, the emotional immaturity. And more importantly, you'll remember your strength. You'll feel your standards rise. You'll walk away not as a victim, but as a man who finally knows his worth. This isn't about hate, it's about healing. It's about no longer settling for relationships that cost you your peace, because when you recognize the red flags and choose to walk away, you don't lose anything, you win your life back. Stay with me, let's expose the truth. Let's take your power back, word by word. The first sign of emotional danger is not always obvious. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's hidden in a casual comment that makes you second guess your own feelings. When she says, "You're too sensitive," it doesn't sound violent, but it is. Because what she's really saying is, your emotions don't matter. Your feelings are inconvenient. Your reactions are a problem. And the more you hear it, the more you start to believe it. That's how emotional suppression begins. That's how your inner voice gets silenced. Sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness. It's the ability to feel deeply, to notice when something is off, to respond to energy, to truth, to love. But when your sensitivity is mocked or criticized, you start burying it. You stop speaking up. You start doubting yourself in moments when your instincts are screaming for you to walk away. And that silence, that hesitation, becomes the slow death of your confidence, because you begin to believe that strength means shutting down your truth. It doesn't. You were not born to shrink. You were not created to apologize for feeling things deeply. That sensitivity is your superpower. It's how you read people. It's how you connect. It's how you protect yourself. And anyone who tries to shame you for it is not someone who honors your depth. They're someone who fears it. They fear the mirror you hold up. They fear your awareness. They fear the parts of you they cannot manipulate. And so they label your clarity as overreacting. They call your instincts insecurity. That's not love. That's control. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to express without being mocked. You deserve a space where your emotions are respected, not weaponized against you. And if someone makes you feel like you have to hide your truth just to keep them close, that's not connection. That's emotional warfare. You don't have to play that game. You don't have to shrink to be accepted. You don't have to suppress who you are to feel loved. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. Every time you silence your emotions to keep someone comfortable, you abandon a piece of your power. Every time you second-guess your boundaries to avoid conflict, you lose more of yourself. That's not the path forward. That's how people become hollow shells of who they were meant to be. But that's not your story, not anymore. You're done being misunderstood on purpose. You're done explaining yourself to people committed to confusion. You're done letting someone else's insecurity define your truth. If she calls you too sensitive, hear this. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. And if your truth is too heavy for her to carry, let her go. Set it down. You're not here to be digested by people who don't have the capacity to hold your soul. You're here to rise. You're here to feel, to lead, to protect your spirit. And that begins when you stop shrinking for anyone who can't meet your depth. When a woman dismisses your boundaries, she's not challenging your opinions. She's disrespecting your identity. Boundaries are not about control. They are declarations of self-worth. They say, this is what I will and won't accept. This is how I protect my peace. This is who I am. But when she says things like, why are you making such a big deal out of this? She's not asking for clarity. She's denying you the right to your own emotional space. And every time you give in to keep the peace, you lose another piece of yourself. You weren't put here to explain your worth to someone committed to ignoring it. When you set a boundary, it's not a suggestion. It's a reflection of your standards. And standards are not flexible just because someone doesn't like them. They are the invisible lines that keep your soul intact. If she mocks them, laughs at them, or tries to convince you they're unnecessary, it's not because she wants harmony, it's because she wants power. That's not partnership. That's dominance dressed as concern. The need to be respected is not selfish. It's not controlling. It's healthy. But toxic people twist your strength into a weakness. They frame your firmness as aggression. They act like your boundaries are a personal attack. And when you start believing that, you begin to erase yourself. Slowly, quietly, completely. You start letting things slide. You stop speaking up. You become a version of yourself built for their comfort instead of your growth. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. Boundaries are how you teach others how to treat you. If someone consistently ignores them, they are teaching you how little they value your presence. And if you stay, you teach yourself to accept it. That's where pain multiplies. Not in one moment, but over time. Through 1,000 little compromises that steal your confidence, stole your voice, and bury your truth. That ends now. You do not have to explain why something feels wrong. If your spirit senses a violation, that's all the reason you need. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world. If she can't respect your no, she doesn't deserve your yes. That clarity will save you. It will protect you from years of confusion and exhaustion. And it will set a standard that only the right kind of woman will ever meet. Respect is not optional. It's the foundation of every meaningful connection. Without it, everything crumbles. Trust, intimacy, love. If someone challenges your boundaries repeatedly, they're not trying to get closer. They're trying to control the terms of your existence. Refuse to let that happen. Your boundaries are not walls, they are doors. Only those who knock with respect deserve to be let in. If she can't honor your limits, she's not ready for your depth. And you were never meant to beg for basic decency. You were meant to protect your peace, defend your values, and walk in truth without apology. Let her go. You were made for more. When she says, my ex was crazy, pay close attention, not to her story, but to the way she tells it. Because hidden behind that phrase is a red flag many ignore. It sounds harmless, even humorous, but it reveals something deeper. It's not just about her past, it's about her pattern. If every man before you was the problem, ask yourself why she's always the victim. Ask yourself why she needs to tear down others to lift herself up. That isn't healing. That's blame. That's deflection. That's emotional immaturity wrapped in casual words. People who grow from their pain don't speak about their past with bitterness. They speak with understanding. They own their part. They reflect. But if she's quick to describe every ex as unstable, toxic, or abusive, she's telling you she hasn't done the inner work. She's telling you she brings the same wounds into every new connection and never stops to ask what they're trying to teach her. That kind of mindset doesn't change just because you showed up. You are not the exception. You are simply next. It's easy to feel sympathy. It's easy to believe you'll be the one to finally give her peace. But that desire to rescue can become a trap. It pulls you into emotional chaos. It makes you question your own reality when the storm begins. Because when things go wrong, and they will, you won't just be dealing with her pain, you'll be wearing the blame. And once she decides you're no longer serving her narrative, your name joins the list of men who are all crazy too. You deserve someone who owns their history. Someone who doesn't need to villainize the past to validate the present. You deserve a woman who has faced herself, who has looked in the mirror and done the hard work. A woman who speaks about her former relationships with honesty, not venom, with maturity, not mockery. Because how she speaks about her past is how she will eventually speak about you. This is your wake-up call. You are not here to be another chapter in someone's pattern of blame. You are not here to fix what someone refuses to face. You are here to grow, to build, to rise with someone who knows how to carry their own weight. Emotional responsibility is the foundation of any lasting bond. Without it, you will always feel like you're walking on glass, trying not to become the next enemy in her story. Choose peace over chaos. Choose clarity over confusion. You don't need to analyze her pain. You need to honor your future. If she can't take accountability for what came before, she's not ready for what comes next. Let her go. You're not here to be her bandage. You're here to build something real, something whole, something that doesn't require you to lose yourself just to be loved. Walk away from anyone who still carries war inside their voice. You've made it too far to turn back now. You are not responsible for healing the wounds she refuses to face. You are not obligated to fix the damage someone else left behind. The moment you try to become her savior, you lose your identity in her chaos. And slowly, you forget that you were never the problem. Men fall into this trap because they lead with empathy. They see her pain, her brokenness, her struggle, and they want to help. But helping becomes sacrificing. Loving becomes saving. And before you know it, you're carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours. You weren't built to rescue. You were built to lead, to protect your peace, to hold space for someone who wants to grow, not someone who demands to be carried. Love is not supposed to feel like a job. If you constantly feel like her emotional caretaker, her therapist, her punching bag, it's not love, it's self-betrayal. You've confused compassion with captivity, and every time you excuse her chaos as trauma, you teach yourself to accept dysfunction as normal. That's not strength, that's spiritual exhaustion. It is not your duty to save someone from themselves. A woman who truly wants to grow will show it in her behavior, not just her words. She won't drain you with drama and excuses. She won't pull you into emotional warfare. She will rise, she will reflect, she will do the inner work without turning you into collateral damage. But if all you receive is blame, guilt, manipulation, and mood swings, she's not looking for a partner, she's looking for a crutch. And that crutch will break you. You have a life to build, a mission to pursue, a legacy to protect, and the wrong woman can derail all of it. Not because she's evil, but because you chose to ignore the signs. You chose to pour energy into someone who doesn't want to evolve. You chose to stay, hoping your love would be enough. But love without boundaries becomes sacrifice, and sacrifice without balance becomes resentment. You deserve better than that. Healing is not a gift you can give to someone else. It's a decision they must make for themselves. You can support, you can guide, but you cannot carry. Because every time you carry what isn't yours, you drop what is. You drop your purpose, you drop your confidence, you drop the fire in your soul. That's too high a price. And deep down, you already know it. You're not cold for choosing yourself. You're not heartless for walking away. You're wise. You're clear. You're finally done letting someone else's chaos disguise itself as connection. You're finally done confusing struggle with love. Let her go. You are not the cure for her past. You are the protector of your future. That's your role. That's your responsibility. And that's where your power lives. Choose peace. Choose purpose. Choose freedom. You owe that to yourself. When she says, all men are the same, don't take it lightly. Don't laugh it off. Don't try to prove her wrong. Hear what she's really saying. She's not just talking about her past, she's labeling your future. She's reducing your unique presence to a pattern she's already written in her mind. And no matter how good you are, how loyal you are, how deeply you show up, you will always be fighting against a story she refuses to stop telling herself. That is not your battle. That is not your burden. You were not created to live under someone else's assumptions. You were not built to beg for recognition in a heart still trapped in bitterness. If she believes all men are cheaters, liars, selfish, weak, she will project that belief onto you. She will look for signs of failure in your every move. She will expect disappointment, and eventually she will manifest it. Not because you failed her, but because she never gave you the chance to be anything different. She saw you as guilty before you ever had a chance to be trusted. That mindset is poison. It doesn't just damage relationships, it suffocates them. It creates a dynamic where love becomes a test, not a partnership. Where connection becomes a trial you're always trying to pass. Where no matter what you do, it's never enough. because it's not about you, it's about her unresolved pain. And if she won't let go of that pain, it will become your prison. You are not responsible for proving your worth to someone who is still holding on to the past. You are not here to repair the damage another man caused. You are here to stand fully in your truth, with clarity, strength, and presence. You deserve to be seen for who you are, not filtered through the lens of someone else's trauma. You deserve trust that is earned together, not trust that is constantly withheld because of fear. You will never thrive in a space where you are assumed to fail. You will never feel peace when you are always being measured against ghosts. Real love doesn't punish you for what you didn't do. Real love doesn't carry suspicion into every moment. It chooses you with open eyes, open arms, and a heart that's ready, not guarded. If her words drip with resentment toward men, if she mocks, criticizes, or generalizes with bitterness, that is not strength. That is unhealed pain, and pain like that doesn't just sit quietly. It spreads. It turns warmth into cold distance. It turns love into a battlefield. You didn't come this far to be a casualty of someone else's war. You deserve a relationship built on belief, not blame. You deserve to be chosen with respect, not suspicion. And if she can't see you clearly, if she refuses to let go of the past, let her go, because you are not all men. You are one man. And you deserve to be seen that way. Masculine energy is not a threat. It is not toxic. It is not something to be apologized for. It is presence. It is strength. It is direction. And when a woman resents your masculinity, when she tries to shame you for leading, for standing firm, for being unapologetically grounded in who you are, understand what's really happening. She's not rejecting you. She's reacting to what she cannot control. Because true masculine energy cannot be manipulated. It cannot be bent to fit insecurity. It does not chase chaos. It leads with calm, steady power. And that power threatens anything built on control. You weren't made to shrink. You weren't meant to fold every time someone accuses you of being too assertive, too confident, too direct. You're not too much. You're not aggressive just because you know what you want. You're not controlling just because you set the pace. You are a man who refuses to apologize for being solid in a world that is addicted to softness. And when she can't handle your strength, it's not your job to dilute it. It's your job to protect it. The wrong woman will try to break your edges to make herself feel stronger. She will turn your leadership into a flaw. She will twist your decisiveness into domination, not because it's true, but because she fears what she can't influence. And if you let her, she will chip away at your confidence one conversation at a time, until you hesitate to speak, until you question your value, until you forget that your masculinity is not the problem, it's the answer. Your strength is not for everyone, and it doesn't need to be. The right woman will honor it, not resist it. She will feel safe in it, not challenged by it. She will rise beside it, not try to overpower it. But the one who mocks it, disrespects it, or constantly competes with it is not your partner. She's your opponent. And love does not grow where there is a battle for dominance. Love grows where there is harmony, balance, and mutual respect. You are allowed to be firm. You are allowed to speak with authority. You are allowed to make decisions, to lead with clarity, to stand tall in who you are without guilt. If she tries to tear that down, walk away. Not because you hate her, but because you love yourself. Enough to stop being shamed for what makes you a man. Enough to stop bending in places where you should be standing tall. You will not beg to be respected. You will not apologize for being rooted. You will not dim your fire to make her feel warm. If your masculine energy offends her, it's because she is not aligned with your truth. Let her go. You're not here to explain your essence. You're here to embody it fully, powerfully, unapologetically. And nothing is more dangerous than a man who finally stops shrinking. Be that man. When she says, "You're lucky to have me," pay attention to the tone, not the playful one, not the surface level charm, but the energy beneath it. Because when that phrase is laced with entitlement, when it comes from a place of superiority, when it sounds more like a warning than affection, you are not hearing confidence. You're witnessing control. And control disguised as value will make you doubt your worth while convincing you to prove it. You'll start measuring your actions against her approval, and without realizing it, you'll trade your power for permission. A woman who values herself doesn't need to remind you. Her presence speaks louder than her words. But the one who constantly declares her worth while ignoring yours is not trying to connect. She's trying to dominate. She believes love is a competition. She thinks Being wanted makes her more powerful than being loving. And when someone carries that mindset, the relationship becomes lopsided. Her needs come first, her emotions take priority, her flaws are excused. Meanwhile, you're left over-explaining, overcompensating, and overextending just to feel seen. You were not created to chase validation. You were not born to audition for affection. You are not lucky just because she gave you attention. You are valuable because of who you are, not because someone else temporarily notices it. If she constantly reminds you that she's the prize, that you're replaceable, that she could have anyone she wants, you're not in a partnership, you're in a performance, and love doesn't demand a stage, the wrong woman will keep you off balance. She'll give just enough to keep you chasing, but never enough to feel secure. She'll reward submission and punish strength. She'll call it standards, but really it's manipulation. And if you accept it, you'll shrink. You'll stop asking for what you need. You'll stop expressing when you're hurt. You'll stop being yourself in hopes of keeping her. But losing yourself to keep someone else isn't love, it's self-erasure. You don't need to be reminded of someone else's value while yours is ignored. You don't need to tolerate arrogance disguised as high standards. True connection is mutual. Respect flows both ways. If she makes you feel like she's doing you a favor by staying, understand the message. It means your worth is being negotiated. And anything that must be negotiated constantly will eventually be taken for granted. You are not here to beg for appreciation. You are not here to prove that you're worthy of staying. You are here to be met, to be seen, to be respected without being reduced. If she can't offer that, walk. Let her feel the silence that comes when a man who knows his worth no longer entertains ego games. Let her realize that you don't chase those who belittle your value. You were never lucky to have her. She was blessed to be seen by a man like you. Own that truth, and never let anyone convince you otherwise. People treat you how you allow them to. Not by what you say, but by what you tolerate. Every moment you stay silent in the face of disrespect, every time you swallow your truth to avoid conflict, every time you accept less than you deserve, you're not just teaching them about your limits, you're telling your mind what you're worth, and your mind believes it. Your nervous system adapts to it. You start adjusting to dysfunction like it's normal, but it's not. It's just familiar. And what's familiar can feel safe even when it's slowly destroying you. Self-respect isn't about being loud. It's not about demanding attention. It's about presence. It's the energy you carry when you know you won't beg, won't chase, won't stay where you're not valued. It's the silence that speaks louder than arguments. It's the decision to walk away without explanation because your peace no longer negotiates with chaos. That level of strength isn't born overnight. It comes from pain. It comes from losing yourself enough times to finally decide you won't do it again. You can't fake self-respect. You either honor your worth or you perform for approval. You either stand firm in your truth or you shrink for temporary affection. There is no middle ground. And if you're constantly sacrificing your values just to maintain a connection, understand, it's not connection. It's survival. Love doesn't require you to prove yourself over and over. It doesn't test your loyalty through disrespect. It doesn't make you feel like you're not enough. It sees you. It meets you. It respects you. If you want to be respected, start by respecting yourself, not in words. In actions, say less and watch more. When someone crosses a line, don't explain the line, enforce it. When someone downplays your boundaries, don't debate them, distance yourself. Respect doesn't grow in places where you're constantly asked to defend your value. It grows in places where your presence alone sets the standard. You are not here to be chosen by everyone. You are here to be aligned with those who recognize your depth. And anyone who doesn't is not your loss. They are just proof that your standards are finally working. High standards don't push the right people away. They reveal who was never ready to begin with. Stop making excuses for those who don't see you. Stop bending to fit places you've outgrown. Start living like your energy is sacred, because it is. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue to be understood. Your power is not in convincing, it's in walking. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop explaining and start enforcing. The moment you choose peace over permission. The moment you realize self-respect is not about how others treat you, it's about how you allow yourself to be treated. The moment you choose you, everything changes, and you never go back. When a woman tests you with disrespect, she's not just pushing your buttons, she's measuring your backbone. She wants to know what you'll tolerate, how far she can go, how much of yourself you're willing to give up just to stay in her good graces. It starts small. A dismissive tone, a sarcastic remark, a subtle insult disguised as humor, and if you don't check it, it grows. Not because she hates you, but because she's unconsciously looking for the edge of your strength. And if she can't find it, she loses respect for you, slowly, silently, completely. You can't be respected if you're afraid to disappoint. You can't be respected if your worth depends on her mood. You can't be respected if you let love become an excuse for letting someone walk all over your standards. A woman might challenge you, but it's not your job to prove you're worthy. It's your job to show you won't crumble under pressure. That doesn't require rage. It doesn't require control. It requires self-command, the ability to remain grounded when tested, the clarity to know where your line is, and the courage to enforce it without hesitation. Every time you allow disrespect, you teach her how to treat you, not with your words, but with your silence. She learns that your boundaries bend, that your emotions can be played, that your dignity has a price. And if she learns that lesson once, she'll keep testing it. She'll push further each time, not because she's cruel, but because you've given her the blueprint that says, this man doesn't protect his own value. That's how leaders become followers. That's how warriors become servants in relationships that slowly poison their purpose. Disrespect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up in how she speaks about you when no one's around, in how she jokes about your flaws, mocks your goals, or interrupts your voice. And if you're not paying attention, you'll laugh with her, not realizing you're laughing at yourself, not realizing you're participating in your own devaluation. That's how self-respect dies, not in one big moment, but in the thousands you ignored. You were not built to be tested endlessly. You were built to be honored, respected, and deeply seen. That begins with you. You don't earn respect by demanding it. You earn it by living it, by refusing to tolerate behavior that shrinks you, by walking away when your value is treated like a convenience. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be cruel. You just have to be clear. And once you're clear, you'll stop explaining yourself to people who never really heard you in the first place. Disrespect tolerated once becomes expected twice. Set your standard, not for her approval, but for your alignment. Walk in truth so loudly that anything less sounds like noise. You weren't made to be tested. You were made to be trusted. And trust starts with how firmly you hold your own line. You don't need chaos to feel alive. You don't need drama to feel loved. If your relationship feels like a roller coaster with constant highs and crashing lows, that's not passion. It's dysfunction. And the longer you stay in it, the more your nervous system learns to associate instability with love. But love doesn't feel like confusion. It doesn't feel like walking on eggshells. It doesn't feel like anxiety disguised as excitement. Real love is steady. It's safe. It's calm. And if that kind of peace feels boring, it's because you've been conditioned to chase emotional survival instead of emotional fulfillment. You were not meant to be stuck in cycles of adrenaline just to keep a connection. You were not designed to constantly question where you stand, how she feels, or what you did wrong. If her moods control your mental state, if you're always trying to fix, please, or rescue just to keep things from falling apart, you're not in a relationship. You're in a storm. And storms don't build. They destroy. They wear you down. They distort your sense of normal. And soon, silence starts to feel like danger. Stillness starts to feel like disconnection. That's how trauma bonds are formed, through emotional extremes that keep you hooked, not loved. A woman who thrives on emotional instability isn't seeking connection, she's seeking control. She wants to know that you'll stay no matter how unpredictable she becomes, that you'll chase her even when she pushes you away, that you'll prove yourself over and over, even if she never does the same. And the moment you start believing that this is what love looks like, you hand over your power, not with one act, but with your repeated willingness to be unsettled. You don't need to earn peace. You don't need to earn consistency. You don't need to perform for love like it's a prize handed out after surviving enough emotional chaos. You are not here to beg for steady ground. You are here to build it. And anyone who shakes that ground to feel powerful doesn't deserve access to your life. They don't deserve the softness of your loyalty or the depth of your presence. Let go of the belief that love should feel like a battle. Let go of the idea that struggle means strength. Love should not test your limits every day. It should reinforce them. It should remind you of who you are, not make you forget. You are not hard to love. You are just tired of proving it to people who feed off your exhaustion. Walk away from the chaos. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop confusing turbulence with passion. You were not built to survive your relationships. You were built to thrive in them. That starts when you stop chasing intensity and start choosing emotional safety. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's power. That's freedom. Choose peace over patterns. Choose yourself every single time. If you constantly feel like you're walking on glass around her, that's not love. It's emotional captivity. When your thoughts are filtered through fear, when your words are measured to avoid triggering her reactions, when your needs stay buried to prevent another outburst, you're no longer in a relationship. You're in a cage. And no matter how beautiful the cage looks on the outside, it still robs you of freedom. It still kills your voice. It still breaks down your confidence, one suppressed truth at a time. Control doesn't always come with a raised voice or harsh words. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in guilt, in withdrawal, in the way she punishes you with distance when she doesn't get her way, in the way she rewrites reality to make herself the victim and you the villain. You start to believe that everything is your fault, that if you just tried harder, stayed quieter, acted calmer, things would get better, but they don't. Because the problem was never your tone, it was her need for control. And no amount of self-sacrifice will ever satisfy someone who only feels secure when you're insecure. Love isn't supposed to make you shrink. It's supposed to expand you. It's supposed to give you room to be fully seen, fully heard, fully you. But when you're with someone who uses your empathy against you, you begin to lose yourself. You stop laughing the way you used to. You stop dreaming the way you once did. You stop living from your core and start surviving through her moods. That's not a relationship. That's emotional erosion. You do not have to tolerate instability to prove you're loyal. You do not have to silence your discomfort to keep the peace. You do not have to keep proving your love to someone who only loves you when you're easy to control. That's not love. That's manipulation wearing the mask of romance. And the longer you stay in that dynamic, the harder it becomes to see clearly. Because when you're constantly made to question your reality, you stop trusting your instincts. You stop believing your own clarity. But just because someone disagrees with your truth doesn't mean your truth isn't valid. You're allowed to want peace. You're allowed to expect stability. You're allowed to require emotional maturity. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you wise. The strongest men are not the ones who endure chaos. They're the ones who know when to walk away from it, who know that their energy is sacred, that their mind deserves rest, that their heart deserves honesty, not emotional games. If her love requires you to abandon yourself, it's not love. It's a trap. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You owe yourself freedom. The kind that comes from choosing emotional safety over emotional chaos. The kind that comes when you finally realize you're not here to be controlled. You're here to be respected. And that begins the moment you stop accepting less. There comes a point when silence speaks louder than anything she says. When her indifference cuts deeper than words and her emotional absence becomes a prison you can't escape. She's still there physically, but her energy is miles away. You feel it in the way she stops listening, in the way her eyes no longer meet yours with warmth, in the way her affection is given out like a reward you have to earn, not a gift freely shared. You start questioning your worth, not because of what she says, but because of what she no longer does. And in that quiet withdrawal, you begin to feel invisible. This is how emotional neglect poisons a relationship, not with explosive arguments, but with cold distance. And the worst part is, you blame yourself. You wonder if you're not enough, if you failed to keep her interest, if somehow your presence became too predictable, too boring, too easy to overlook. But the truth is, real love doesn't grow tired of presence. It doesn't punish consistency. It doesn't make you feel like you're competing for basic connection. When someone stops showing up emotionally, it's not your fault. It's a reflection of their own internal disconnection, their own inability to love deeply. And it's not your job to pull life out of someone who refuses to engage. You were not created to beg for emotional crumbs. You were not made to feel grateful for the bare minimum. You are not too needy for wanting presence, attention, affection. You are human. And any relationship that makes you feel like your emotional needs are too much is a relationship that lacks depth, maturity, and care. You cannot thrive in emotional starvation. You cannot grow in a space where your voice echoes without being received. That's not connection. That's abandonment in slow motion. The most dangerous kind of neglect is the one you normalize, the one you excuse because there's no yelling, no violence, no chaos. But absence is a form of damage. Being unseen is a wound. And staying in a relationship where your soul is slowly dimmed is one of the deepest betrayals you can make against yourself. You don't need someone to hurt you to know you're not being loved right. Sometimes it's what they withhold that reveals everything. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. And no matter how hard you try to fix it, you can't make someone show up if they've already checked out. Your peace is not found in chasing them, it's found in choosing you, in walking away from the cold, from the silence, from the slow erasure of your spirit. You deserve to be felt, to be valued, to be emotionally held, not emotionally abandoned. Stop settling for half love. Stop shrinking to stay connected. Your energy deserves to be met with depth, not distance. And the moment you choose to walk away from emotional neglect is the moment you choose to feel alive again. If she constantly compares you to other men, she's not inspiring you, she's insulting you. She's slowly erasing your individuality, replacing it with pressure, and turning your love into a competition you never agreed to enter. Whether it's her ex, her friend's boyfriend, or some stranger she idolizes, the message is always the same. You're not enough as you are. That kind of comparison isn't harmless, it's not motivational, it's psychological warfare disguised as casual talk. And if you absorb it long enough, it chips away at your self-worth until you no longer recognize the man you once were. Every time she says someone else would have done it better, or someone else made her feel more alive, or someone else was more romantic, she's not just making a statement, she's taking a piece of your confidence and tossing it away. And the more you try to compete with these shadows, the more you abandon your authenticity. You start performing, you start mimicking, you start molding yourself into whatever she claims to want, hoping this time she'll finally approve. But no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. Because comparison has no finish line. It just keeps moving the target further away. You were not born to be anyone else. You were born to stand in your own truth, to bring a love that is unique, not duplicated. And anyone who tries to make you feel small by holding you against someone else's image is not loving you. They're using you as a mirror for their own dissatisfaction. A woman who truly values you will never weaponize another man's actions to diminish yours. She will not measure your worth by someone else's story. She will recognize the value you bring without needing to manufacture pressure or provoke insecurity. Love doesn't demand imitation. It demands presence. It asks you to be real, not perfect. It calls you to grow, not compete. And the moment you start competing to be enough for someone who doesn't even see you clearly, you lose. You lose your center. You lose your clarity. You lose the solid ground you were once standing on. And for what? A relationship built on judgment, not respect? You are not here to fight for basic appreciation. You are not here to shapeshift for acceptance. You are here to be with someone who values what you naturally bring, your energy, your loyalty, your heart, your consistency. That is not something to be compared. It is something to be cherished. And if she can't do that, walk. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop proving yourself to someone who never really saw you in the first place. You are not someone else. You are you. And that is enough. Stop letting anyone make you feel otherwise. The right woman won't ask you to be more like him. She'll be thankful you're nothing like him at all. Stand in that truth and never let it go. There is no honor in being chosen only when it's convenient. If she only wants you when she's bored, when she's lonely, or when her other options fall through, that's not love. That's emotional opportunism. You are not created to be someone's backup plan. You are not a placeholder. You are not someone she keeps around just in case her life doesn't go the way she hopes. You are a man with depth, with value, with presence. And the moment you allow yourself to be treated as an option, you give her permission to disrespect everything you bring. When she disappears without explanation and comes back like nothing happened, it's not mystery, it's manipulation. When she ignores you for days, then texts you out of nowhere to reel you back in, that's not affection, it's control. She wants to see how tightly you'll hold on when she lets go. She wants to know you'll still be there no matter how many times she pulls away. That's not emotional connection, that's emotional conditioning. She is training you to accept inconsistency as the price of her presence. Every time you respond to her silence with eagerness, every time you forgive without clarity, every time you welcome her back without standards, you reinforce the cycle. She learns that you will settle for less, that you will tolerate confusion, that you will stay as long as she decides to return. But love doesn't disappear and reappear at will. It doesn't treat loyalty like a revolving door. It doesn't show up only when it's convenient. You don't deserve to be half chosen. You don't deserve to live in emotional limbo, waiting to feel important again. The right woman won't leave you wondering. She won't play with your mind or keep you hanging on a string of mixed signals. She will either be present with her whole heart or not at all. And the more you raise your standards, the clearer that truth becomes. You are not desperate for connection. You are simply craving what's real, something honest, something steady, something that doesn't come with conditions or vanish when it's no longer exciting. Real love stays. Real love shows up. Real love doesn't disappear and call it space. It doesn't ghost and call it growth. It communicates. It commits. It respects your time, your effort, your loyalty. Let her go if she only comes around when it suits her. Let her feel the silence she used to weaponize. Let her experience the absence she once forced you to live with, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. You don't owe endless patience to someone who treats your presence like a convenience. Your energy is not casual. Your time is not disposable. Your love is not a game. You are not here to be picked up and put down like a hobby. You are here to be valued with intention, not entertained with inconsistency. Walk away from anyone who can't choose you with clarity, because you're not an option. You're the standard, and you need to start acting like it. You can't build something real with someone who plays with your stability. When she thrives on confusion, when she's addicted to emotional reactions, when she keeps shifting her position just to keep you guessing, she's not creating connection, she's creating chaos. And chaos, when left unchallenged, becomes the foundation. Before you even realize it, peace feels foreign, calm feels boring, clarity feels suspicious. You start mistaking dysfunction for intensity. And that's how you lose yourself in a relationship that only knows how to pull you apart. A woman who loves you won't weaponize your emotional availability. She won't use your vulnerability as a tool to manipulate your behavior. She won't ask you to open up just to twist your honesty against you when the argument starts. She won't pull you close one day, then push you away the next to maintain the upper hand. That's not love. That's emotional warfare. That's insecurity masked as power. And if you stay long enough, you begin to break. Slowly, quietly, without even noticing. Not because you're weak, but because she's feeding off your strength and offering nothing in return. You were not built to be a punching bag for someone's unresolved wounds. You were not made to absorb chaos just because you have the heart to stay calm. You don't have to keep showing how strong you are by how much you can endure. You show true strength by knowing when to walk, by recognizing when a situation no longer grows you, by refusing to be someone's emotional filter while they refuse to face themselves. Peace isn't found in fixing broken dynamics. It's found in protecting your mind from becoming collateral damage. You can't heal her pain by tolerating her patterns. You can't save a relationship that's designed to keep you off balance. Every time you excuse her actions in the name of patience, you teach yourself that your peace doesn't matter. But it does. It always has. It's just that no one told you that boundaries are a form of self-love, not rejection. That leaving isn't quitting. It's choosing yourself. You don't have to explain why you need consistency. You don't have to apologize for needing calm. You're not boring for wanting emotional safety. You're not soft for choosing clarity over chaos. You're awake. You're aware. You've learned the cost of tolerating dysfunction for too long, and you're ready to stop bleeding just to keep the peace. That decision doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sovereign. When love feels like war, peace becomes your rebellion, and the moment you reclaim your right to feel safe, heard, and respected, the game ends. Not because she changed, but because you stopped playing. You stopped dancing around her moods. You stopped absorbing blame that wasn't yours. You stepped out of the storm and remembered who you are. That's power. That's clarity. That's what walking away feels like, when your self-worth finally speaks louder than your loyalty. Not every beautiful face holds a beautiful heart. Charm can be deceptive, attraction can blind you, and emotional intensity can make you forget to check for emotional integrity. If she knows how to say the right things but never lives them, if her words are filled with warmth but her actions are cold, you're not with someone genuine. You're with someone who mastered performance. And performance might impress you at first, but it will never sustain you. Because real connection isn't found in how someone acts when they want to win you. It's found in who they are when they think they've already won. Some women are addicted to the chase, not the commitment. They crave the thrill of being desired, not the responsibility of being consistent. They know how to spark excitement, but not how to sustain effort. They love the idea of being loved, but they don't know how to truly love in return. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake their passion for depth. You'll confuse their attention for loyalty. You'll believe that because she wants you today, she'll stay tomorrow. But want is not the same as devotion. Desire is not the same as respect. You are not here to be entertained. You are not here to be someone's emotional toy. You are not here to be used for validation, attention, or temporary excitement. You are here for something solid, for something sincere, for something that doesn't vanish the moment the game is over. You don't need fireworks. You need consistency. You don't need grand gestures. You need quiet honesty. You don't need to be impressed. You need to be understood. That's where real love lives. Not in how loud someone shows up in the beginning, but in how consistently they choose you after the newness fades.